Pilgrim's Progress continues, cassette number 2, side A. I have, too, a mark on my forehead which you may not have noticed, which one of my Lord's most intimate associates placed there the day the burden fell off my shoulders. I tell you, moreover, that I was given then a roll sealed to comfort me by reading as I go on the way. I was also told to give it in at the celestial gate to make certain my entry there. I doubt that you have all these things, because you did not come in at the gate. They gave him no answer to these things, but looked at each other and laughed. And then as they all went on, Christian walked ahead of them, sometimes sighing as he went, sometimes with good cheer. And as he went, he often read from the roll that one of the shining ones gave him, and by it he was refreshed. Chapter 7. The Hill of Difficulty. I beheld then that they all went on till they came to the foot of the hill of difficulty, at the bottom of which was a spring. There were also in the same place 2 other ways, besides that which came straight from the gate. One turned to the left and the other to the right at the bottom of the hill. But the narrow way lay right up the hill, and the name of that going up the side of the hill is called Difficulty. Christian now went to the spring, and drank of it to refresh himself, and then began to go up the hill, saying, This hill, though high, I covet to ascend. The difficulty will not me offend, for I perceive the way to life lies here. Come, pluck up, heart, let's neither faint nor fear. Better, though difficult, the right way to go, than wrong, though easy, where the end is woe. Christian's 2 companions also came to the foot of the hill. But when they saw that the hill was steep and high, and that there were 2 other ways to go, and supposing that these 2 ways might meet again with that up which Christian went on the other side of the hill, they were resolved to go in those ways. Now the name of the one was Danger, and of the other Destruction. So the one took the way which is called Danger, which led him into a great wood, and the other went directly up the way to Destruction, which led him into a wide field full of dark mountains, where he stumbled and fell, and rose no more. I looked then after Christian, to see him go up the hill, where I perceived he went from running to walking, and from walking to clambering on his hands and knees, because of the steepness of the place. About midway to the top of the hill was a pleasant arbor, made by the Lord of the hill for the refreshment of weary travelers. Here Christian, as he arrived, sat down to rest himself, pulling his roll out of his bosom to read for his comfort as he rested. He also began to look afresh at the coat which had been given to him as he stood by the cross. Thus pleasing himself a while, he fell into a slumber, and then into a fast sleep, which kept him in that place until it was almost night. In his sleep his roll fell out of his hand. But as he slept, there came one to him and awaked him, saying, Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways, and be wise. And with that Christian suddenly started up, and sped on his way as fast as he could till he came to the top of the hill. Now when he was got up to the top of the hill, he met 2 men running at full speed. The name of the one was Timorous, and of the other Mistrust. Sirs, said Christian, what is the matter? You run the wrong way. Timorous answered that they were going to the city of Zion, and had got up that difficult place. But, said he, the farther we go, the more danger we meet with. So we turned and are going back again. Yes, said Mistrust, for just before us lie a couple of lions in the way. Whether they are sleeping or waking we know not, and we could not think if we came within their reach, but they would quickly pull us to pieces. Then Christian spoke. You make me afraid. But whither shall I fly to be safe? If I go back to my own country, that is destined for fire and brimstone, and I shall certainly perish there. If I can get to the celestial city, I am sure to be in safety there. I must venture. To go back is nothing but death. To go forward is fear of death, and life everlasting beyond it. I will yet go forward. So Mistrust and Timorous ran down the hill, and Christian went on his way. But thinking again of what he heard from these men, he felt in his bosom for his roll, and it was not to be found. Then Christian was in great distress, and knew not what to do, for he lacked that which used to relieve him, and that which was to have been his pass into the celestial city. Here, therefore, he began to be much perplexed, and knew not what to do. At last he remembered that he had slept in the arbor on the side of the hill, and falling down on his knees, he asked God's forgiveness for that foolish act. Then he went back to look for his roll. But all the way back, who can sufficiently set forth the sorrow of Christian's heart? Sometimes he sighed, sometimes he wept, and oftentimes he chided himself for being so foolish as to fall asleep in that place which was erected for only a little refreshment from his weariness. Thus, therefore, he went back, carefully looking on this side and on that, all the way as he went, if happily he might find his roll that had been his comfort so many times in his journey. He went back thus till he came again within sight of the arbor where he had sat and slept. But that sight renewed his sorrow the more, by bringing fresh to his mind the evil of his sleeping. Thus, therefore, he now went on bewailing his sinful sleep, saying, O wretched man that I am, that I should sleep in the daytime, that I should sleep in the midst of difficulty, that I should so indulge the flesh as to use that rest for ease to my flesh, which the Lord of the hill hath erected only for the relief of the spirits of pilgrims. How many steps have I taken in vain? Thus it happened to Israel. For their sin they were sent back again by the way of the Red Sea. And I am made to tread these steps with sorrow, which I might have trodden with delight, had it not been for this sinful sleep. How far might I have been on my way by this time? I am made to tread those steps thrice over, which I needed not to have trodden but once. Yes, and now I am likely to be kept overnight, for the day is almost spent. Oh, that I had not slept. By this time he had come back to the arbor again, where for a while he sat down and wept. But at last, looking sorrowfully down under the seat, he spied his roll. With trembling and haste he caught it up and put it in his bosom. But who can tell how joyful this man was when he had gotten his roll again? For this roll was the assurance of his life and acceptance at the desired haven. Therefore he laid it up in his bosom, gave thanks to God for directing his eye to the place where it lay, and with joy and tears betook himself again to his journey. But oh, how nimbly now did he go up the rest of the hill! Yet before he got up, the sun went down upon Christian, and this made him again recall the folly of his sleeping to his remembrance. He began to commiserate with himself. O sinful sleep, how for your sake am I likely to be overtaken by darkness on my journey? I must walk without the sun. Darkness must cover the path of my feet, and I must hear the noise of the frightful creatures because of my sinful sleep. Now also he remembered the story that Mistrust and Timorous had told him, how they were frightened by the sight of the lions. Christian said to himself, These beasts range at night for their prey, and if they should meet me in the dark, how can I avoid them? How can I escape being torn to pieces? And thus he went on his way. Chapter 8. The House Beautiful. While Christian was bewailing his unhappy failure, he lifted up his eyes and saw before him a very stately palace, the name of which was Beautiful, and it stood just by the side of the highway. So he made haste and went forward to see if he might find lodging there. Before he had gone far, he entered into a very narrow passage, which was about 200 yards from the porter's lodge. Looking very closely before him as he went, Christian espied 2 lions in the way. Now, thought he, I see the dangers that drove Mistrust and Timorous back. The lions were chained, but he could not see the chains. Then he was afraid, and even thought about going back after Timorous and Mistrust, for he feared but nothing but death was before him. But the porter of the lodge, whose name is Watchful, perceiving that Christian made a halt as if he would go back, cried to him, saying, Is your strength so small? Fear not the lions, for they are chained, and are placed there for trial of faith where it is, and to reveal those who have none. Keep in the midst of the path, and no hurt shall come to you. Then I saw that he went on, trembling for fear of the lions, but taking good heed to the directions of the porter. He heard them roar, but they did him no harm. Then he clapped his hands and went on till he came and stood before the gate where the porter was. Christian said to porter, Sir, what house is this, and may I lodge here tonight? The porter answered, This house was built by the Lord of the Hill, and he built it for the relief and security of pilgrims. The porter then asked whence he was and whither he was going. I come from the city of destruction, and I am going to Mount Zion, but because the sun is now set, I desire, if I may, to lodge here tonight. What is your name? My name is now Christian, but my name at the first was Graceless. But how does it happen that you come so late? The sun is set, asked the porter. I would have been here sooner, except that wretched man that I am, I slept in the arbor that stands of the hillside, replied Christian. No, even so, I would have been here much sooner, if I had not in my sleep lost my evidence, and came without it to the top of the hill. Then feeling for it and not finding it, I was forced with sorrow of heart to go back to the place where I slept, where I found it, and now I am here. Well, I will call out one of the virgins of this place, who will, if she likes your talk, take you into the rest of the family according to the rules of the house. So Watchful, the porter, rang a bell, and at its sound there came out at the door of the house a grave and beautiful damsel named Discretion, who asked why she had been called. The porter answered, This man is on a journey from the city of destruction to Mount Zion, but being weary and overtaken by darkness, has asked if he might lodge here tonight. I told him that after you have talked with him, you may do as seems good to you, according to the law of the house. The damsel then asked Christian where he had come from and where he was going, and he told her. Then she asked him what he had seen and met with in the way, and he told her. And last she asked his name. It is Christian, he said, and I have so much the more a desire to lodge here tonight, because by what I perceive this place was built by the Lord of the Hill for the relief and security of pilgrims. So she smiled, but tears stood in her eyes, and after a little pause she said, I will call 2 or 3 more of the family. So she ran to the door and called out Prudence, Piety, and Charity, who after a little more discourse with him, welcomed him into the family. Many of them, meeting him at the threshold of the house, said, Come in, blessed of the Lord. This house was built by the Lord of the Hill for the purpose of entertaining such pilgrims. Bowing his head, he followed them into the house. When he was inside, they gave him something to drink, and agreed together that until supper was ready, some of them should have some conversation with Christian for the best use of the time. And they appointed Piety, Prudence, and Charity to discourse with him. Piety began, saying, "Come, good Christian, since we have been so loving to you to receive you in our house this night, let us, if perhaps we may better ourselves, talk with you of the things that have happened to you in your pilgrimage." "With a very good will, and I'm glad that you are so well disposed," he answered. "What moved you at first to commit yourself to a pilgrim's life?" asked Piety. "I was driven out of my native country by a sound that came into my ears," said Christian. "It was the word that if I stayed in that place where I was, certain destruction awaited me." "But how did it happen that you came out of your country this way?" she asked. "It was as God would have it," was his reply. "When I was under the fears of destruction, I did not know where to go. By chance there came a man to me as I was trembling and weeping. His name was Evangelist, and he directed me to the wicket gate. Otherwise I should never have found it. It was he who set me into the way that has led me directly to this house." "But," Piety continued, "did you not come by the house of the interpreter?" "Yes, and I saw such things that I will remember them as long as I live, especially 3 things. First, how Christ, in spite of Satan, maintains his work of grace in the heart. Second, how the man had sinned himself quite out of hopes of God's mercy. And also the dream of the man who thought in his sleep that the day of judgment had come." "Why, did you hear him tell his dream?" asked Piety. "Yes, and a dreadful one it was. I thought it made my heart ache as he was telling about it, yet I'm glad I heard it." "Was that all you saw at the house of the interpreter?" "No," said Christian. "He took me and showed me a stately palace, and the people in it were clad in gold. Then there came a venturous man, cutting his way through the armed men who stood in the door to keep him out. And I saw that he was then invited to come in and win eternal glory. The thought of those things ravished my heart. I would have stayed at that good man's house a year, but I knew that I had further to go." "What else did you see in the way?" asked the damsel. "Saw?" exclaimed Christian. "Why, I went but a little further, and I saw one, as I thought in my mind, hang bleeding upon the tree, and the very sight of him made my burden fall off my back, for I had groaned under a very heavy burden. But then it fell down from me. It was a strange thing to me, for I never saw such a thing before. Yes, and while I stood looking up, for I could not keep from looking, 3 shining ones came to me. One of them testified that my sins were forgiven. Another stripped me of my rags and gave me this broidered coat which you see. And the third set the mark which you see in my forehead and gave me this sealed roll. And with that he plucked it out of his bosom." Piety placed another question. "You saw more than this, did you not?" "The things that I have told you were the best," was Christian's response. "Yet there were some other things I saw. There were 3 men, Simple, Sloth, and Presumption, lying asleep a little out of the way as I came along, with irons on their feet." "But do you think I could wake them?" "I also met Formality and Hypocrisy, who came tumbling in over the wall to go, as they pretended, to Zion. They were quickly lost, however, even as I had tried to tell them they would be, but they would not listen or believe. Above all, I found it hard work to get up this hill, and as hard to come by the lions' mouths. Truly, if it had not been for the good man the porter who stands at the gate, I do not know but that after all I might have gone back again. But now I thank God that I'm here, and I thank you for receiving me." Prudence then asked him a few questions and desired an answer from him. "Do you not think sometimes of the country you came from?" she asked. "Yes," he replied, "but with shame and devastation. Truly, if I had been mindful of that country from which I came, I might have had an opportunity to return. But now I desire a better country, a heavenly one." "Do you not yet carry with you some of the things that you were accustomed to associate with?" asked Prudence. Yes, but greatly against my will, especially my inward and carnal thoughts, with which all my countrymen as well as myself were delighted. But now all those things are my grief, and if I could but choose my own things, I would choose never to think of those things any more. But when I would be doing that which is best, that which is worst is with me. Do you not find sometimes as if those things were vanquished, which at other times are your perplexity? Yes, but that is seldom. But they are to me golden hours in which such things happen to me, said Christian. Prudence went on. Can you remember by what means you find your annoyances to seem as if they were vanquished? Yes, he answered. When I think of what I saw at the cross, that will do it. And when I look upon my broidered coat, that will do it. Also when I look into the roll that I carry in my bosom, that will do it. And when my thoughts wax warm about the place where I'm going, that will do it. And what is it that makes you so eager to go to Mount Zion, she asked. Why, there I hope to see him alive, who hung dead on that cross. And there I hope to be rid of all those things in me that to this day are an annoyance to me. There, they say, there is no death, and there I shall dwell with such company as I like best. For to tell the truth, I love him, because I was eased of my burden by him, and I'm weary of my inward sickness. I should like to be where I shall die no more, with the company of them who shall continually cry, Holy, holy, holy. Then said Charity to Christian, Have you a family? Are you a married man? I have a wife and 4 small children, he answered. And why did you not bring them along with you? She inquired. Then Christian wept and said, Oh, how willingly would I have done it. But they were all of them completely averse to my going on pilgrimage. But Charity persisted, You should have talked to them, and you should have tried to show them the danger of being left behind. So I did, he insisted. I told them also what God had shown me about the destruction of our city. But I seemed to them as one who mocked, and they did not believe me. And did you pray to God that he would bless your words of counsel to them? Yes, and that with much affection, for you must know that my wife and poor children were very dear to me. But did you tell them of your own sorrow and fear of destruction? For I suppose that destruction was visible enough to you, said Charity. Yes, he replied sadly, over and over and over. They could see my fears in my face, in my tears, and in my trembling at the thought of the judgment which hung over our heads. But all this was not sufficient to prevail with them to come with me. But what could they say for themselves as to why they did not come? She asked. Christian looked at her sadly again. My wife was afraid of losing this world, and my children were given to the foolish delights of youth. And so what by one thing and what by another, they left me to wander in this manner alone. But did you not, with your vain and empty life, dampen all you said to persuade them to come away with you? Indeed, I cannot commend my life, said Christian. I am conscious of many failings in it. I know also that a man by his way of life may soon overthrow what by argument or persuasion he tries hard to give others for their good. Yet this I can say, I was very careful not to make them averse to my going on pilgrimage by any unseemly action on my part. Indeed, for this very thing, they would tell me that I was too precise, that I denied myself of things for their sake, in which they saw no evil. No, I think I may say that if what they saw in me was an hindrance to them, it was my great fear of sinning against God, of doing any wrong to my neighbor. Indeed, Cain hated his brother, Charity observed, because his own works were evil and his brother's righteous. And if your wife and children have been offended with you for these things, then they show that they are not to be persuaded or moved by your entreaties for their own good. Therefore you have delivered your soul from their blood. Now I saw in my dream that they sat talking together in this way until supper was ready. So when they had made ready, they all sat down to eat. The table was furnished with fat things and with wine well refined, and all their talk at the table was about the Lord of the hill, about what he had done and why he did, and what he did, and why he had built that house. By what they said I perceived that he had been a great warrior, and had fought with and slain him that had the power of death, but not without great danger to himself, which made me love him the more. For as they said, and as I believe, said Christian, he did it with the loss of much blood. But that which put glory of grace into all he did was that he did it out of pure love of his country. Besides, some of the household said they had been with him, and had spoken with him after he died on the cross. And they have attested that they had it from his own lips, that he is such a lover of poor pilgrims, that the like is not to be found from the east to the west. They gave him, moreover, an instance of what they affirmed, that he had stripped himself of his glory, that he might do this for the poor, and that they had heard him say and affirm that he would not dwell in the mountain of Zion alone. They said, too, that he had made many pilgrims princes, even though by nature they were beggars born, and their origin had been the dunghill. Thus they talked on together till late at night, and after they had committed themselves to their Lord for protection, they went to rest. The pilgrim they assigned to a large upper chamber with its window opening toward the sun rising, which was named Peace. There he slept till the break of day. In the morning they all got up, and after some more discourse, they told him that he should not leave till they had shown him the rarities of that place. First they took him into the study, where they showed him records of the greatest antiquity. In these they pointed out first the lineage of the Lord of the hill, that he was the son of the Ancient of Days, and that he was begotten before all ages. Here also were more complete records of the acts that he had done, and the names of many hundred he had taken into his service. Here too he saw that he had placed his servants in such dwellings that neither by length of days nor by the decays of nature could they be dissolved. Then they read to him some of the worthy acts that some of his servants had done, such as how they had subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness had been made strong, waxed valiant in fight, and turned to flight the armies of the aliens. They read again in another part of the records of the house, where it showed how willing their Lord was to receive into his favor any, even though they in time past had offered great affronts and offense to his person and his will. Here also were several other histories of many other famous things which Christians saw, things both ancient and modern, together with prophecies and predictions of things that will have their certain accomplishment, both to the dread and amazement of enemies and the comfort and solace of pilgrims. The next day they took him into the armory. There they showed him all manner of equipment which their Lord had provided for pilgrims, sword, shield, helmet, breastplate, all prayer, and shoes that would not wear out. And there was here enough of this to equip as many men for the service of their Lord as there are stars in the heaven. They also showed him instruments with which some of the Lord's servants had done wonderful things. They showed him Moses' rod, the hammer and nail with which Jael slew Sisera, the pitchers, trumpets, and lamps with which Gideon put to flight the armies of Midian. Then they showed him the ox goad with which Shamgar slew 600 men, and the jawbone with which Samson did such mighty feats. They showed him, moreover, the sling and stone with which David slew the giant Goliath, and the sword with which their Lord will kill the man of sin in the day when he shall rise up to the prey. Besides these, they showed him many other excellent things, with which he was much delighted. This done, they all went to their rest again. The following day, Christian wanted to move on, but they prevailed on him to stay one more day, because, they said, if the day is clear, we will show you the Delectable Mountains. They assured him that this view would further add to his comfort, because these mountains were nearer the desired haven than the place where Christian was at present. So he consented and stayed. Next day they took him to the top of the house and bid him look south. As he did so, he saw at a great distance a most pleasant mountainous country, beautified with woods, vineyards, fruits of all sorts, and with flowers, with springs and fountains, very delectable to behold. He asked the name of the country. They said it was Emmanuel's land. And it is as common, said they, as this hill is to and for all the pilgrims. And when you come there from here, said they, you may see the gate of the celestial city, as the shepherds who live there will show you. Christian was eager to set forward again, and they were willing that he should. But first, said they, let us go again into the armory. So they did. And when they came there, they equipped him from head to foot with what had been tested, lest perhaps he should meet with assaults in the way. After Christian had been fitted with his armor, he walked out with his friends to the gate, and there he asked the porter if he had seen any pilgrims pass by. The porter answered, yes. Pray, did you know him? Said he. I asked him his name. He told me it was Faithful. Oh, said Christian, I know him. He is my townsman, my near neighbor. He comes from the place where I was born. How far do you think he may be before? By this time he is below the hill, replied the porter. Well, said Christian, good porter, the Lord be with you, and add to all your blessings much increase for the kindness you have shown me. Then he started out. But discretion, piety, charity, and prudence wanted to go with him to the foot of the hill. So they accompanied him, reiterating their former talks till they came to go down the hill. Then, said Christian, as it was difficult coming up, so far as I can see, it is dangerous going down. Yes, said Prudence, so it is. For it is a hard matter for a man to go down into the valley of humiliation, as you are now, and not to slip on the way. That is why, they said, we came out to accompany you down the hill. So he began to go down, but very warily, in spite of all, yet his foot slipped once or twice. Then I saw in my dream that these good companions, when Christian had reached the bottom of the hill, gave him a loaf of bread, a bottle of wine, and a cluster of raisins, and then he went on his way. Chapter 9. The Valley of Humiliation. Now in this valley of humiliation poor Christian was hard put to it, for he had gone but a little way before he saw a foul fiend coming over the field to meet him. His name was Apollyon. Christian began to be afraid and to wonder in his mind whether to go back or to stand his ground. But he considered again that he had no armor for his back, and therefore thought that to turn the back to him might give him greater advantage, and enable him to pierce him with his darts with ease. So he resolved to venture and stand his ground. For, thought he, I had no more in my mind than the saving of my life. This would be the best way to stand. So he went on, and Apollyon met him. Now the monster was hideous to behold. He was clothed with scales like a fish, and they are his pride. He had wings like a dragon, feet like a bear, and out of his belly came fire and smoke, and his mouth was the mouth of a lion. When he had come up to Christian, he looked at him with a disdainful countenance and began to question him in this way: "Where do you come from, and where are you going?" "I have come up from the city of destruction," said Christian, "which is the place of all evil, and I'm going to the city of Zion." Apollyon retorted, "By this I see you are one of my subjects, for all that country is mine, and I am the prince and god of it. How is it then that you have run away from your king? Were it not that I hope you may do me more service, I would strike you now with one blow to the ground." "I was born, indeed, in your dominions," Christian replied, "but your service was hard, and your wages such that a man could not live on, for the wages of sin is death. Therefore, when I had come of age, I did as other circumspect people do. I looked out to see if perhaps I might improve myself." "There is no prince who will so lightly lose his subjects," replied Apollyon, "and neither will I as yet lose you. But since you complain of your service and wages, be content to go back, and what our country can afford I promise I will give you." Christian answered, "But I have given myself to another, even the king of princes, so how can I, with fairness, go back with you now?" "You have acted according to the old saying, 'Changed a bad for a worse,'" Apollyon wheedled. "But it is ordinary for those that have professed themselves his servants, after a while, to give him the slip and return again to me. Do this yourself, and all will be well." "But I have given him my promise and sworn my allegiance to him," protested Christian. "How then can I go back from this and not be hanged as a traitor?" Pretending to be merciful, Apollyon murmured, "You did the same to me, and yet I am willing to overlook all, if now you will turn again and go back into my service." Christian stood his ground. "What I promised you was before I was of age, and besides, I count the prince under whose banner I now stand is able to absolve me, yes, and to pardon what I did in my compliance with you. And besides, O destroying Apollyon, to speak truth, I like his service, his wages, his servants, his government, his company and country better than yours. Therefore stop trying to persuade me any further. I am his servant, and will follow him." "Consider again, when you are in a cooler state of mind," the enemy continued, "what you are most likely to meet with in the way you are going. You know that for the most part his servants came to an ill end, because they are transgressors against me and my ways. How many of them have been put to shameful deaths? And besides, you can count his service better than mine, when, as a matter of fact, he never came from the place where he dwells to deliver any who served him out of the hands of their enemies. But as for me, how many times, as the world very well knows, have I delivered, either by power or fraud, those who have faithfully served me, from him and his, even though they were taken by them. And so I will deliver you." Christian said, "His forbearance at present to deliver them is on purpose to try their love, whether they will cleave to him to the end. And as for the ill end you say they come to, that is most glorious in their account. As for present deliverance, they do not much expect it, for they stay for their glory, and then they shall have it, when their prince comes in his glory and the glory of the angels." "You have already been unfaithful in your service to him. How do you think to receive wages from him?" asked Apollyon. "Wherein, O Apollyon, have I been unfaithful to him?" asked Christian, somewhat taken aback. "You fainted at your beginning, when you were almost choked in the gulf of despond. You attempted wrong ways to be rid of your burden, when you should have stayed till your prince had taken it off. You sinfully slept and lost your choice thing. You were also almost persuaded to go back at the sight of the lions, And when you talk of your journey and what you have heard and seen, you are inwardly desirous of vainglory in all you say and do." "All this is true," admitted Christian, "and much more which you have left out. But the prince whom I serve and honor is merciful and ready to forgive. But besides these infirmities possessed me in your country, I have groaned under them, been sorry for them, and have obtained pardon of my prince." Then Napoleon broke out in a grievous rage, saying, "I am an enemy to this prince. I hate his person, his laws, and his people. I have come out purposely to withstand you." "Napoleon, beware what you do," retorted Christian, "for I am in the king's highway, the way of holiness. Therefore take heed to yourself." Then Napoleon straddled quite over the whole breadth of the way and said, "I have no fear in this matter. Prepare yourself to die, for I swear by my infernal den that you shall go no further. Here I will spill your soul." With that he threw a flaming dart at Christian's breast. But Christian had a shield in his hand with which he caught it, and so avoided being damaged by it. Then Christian saw it was time to bestir himself, so he quickly began to move. Napoleon, just as fast, came at him, throwing darts as thick as hail. Notwithstanding all that Christian could do to avoid it, Napoleon wounded him in his head, his hand, and foot. This made Christian retreat a little, and Napoleon followed his work at full speed. Christian again took courage and resisted as manfully as he could. This sore combat lasted for more than half a day, till Christian was almost exhausted. For you can realize that Christian, because of his wounds, was growing weaker and weaker. Napoleon, seeing his opportunity, began to draw up close to Christian, and wrestling with him gave him a dreadful fall. With that, Christian's sword flew out of his hand. Then said Napoleon, "I am sure of you now." With that he had almost pressed him to death, so that Christian began to despair of his life. But, as God would have it, while Napoleon was readying for his final blow to make a full end of this good man, Christian nimbly stretched out his hand for his sword, caught it, and said, "Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. When I fall, I shall arise." With that he gave him a deadly thrust, which made him fall back as one who had received a deadly wound. Christian, seeing this, made at him again, saying, "Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us." With that, Napoleon spread forth his dragon's wings and sped away, so that Christian for a season saw him no more. In this fight no man can imagine, unless he had seen and heard it as I did, what yelling and hideous roaring Napoleon made all during the fight. He spoke like a dragon, nor can one imagine on the other side what sighs and groans burst from Christian's heart. I never saw him all the while give so much as one pleasant look until he perceived that he had wounded Napoleon with his two-edged sword. Then, indeed, he did smile and look upward, but it was the most dreadful sight that I ever saw. A more unequal match can hardly be. Christian must fight an angel, but you see, the valiant man, by handling sword and shield, doth make him, though a dragon, quit the field. When the battle was over, Christian said, "I will here give thanks to him who delivered me out of the mouth of the lion, to him who helped me against Napoleon." Then there came to him a hand with some of the leaves of the tree of life, which Christian took and applied to the wounds he had received in the battle, and he was healed immediately. Sitting down in that place, he ate bread and drank of the bottle which had been given him a little while before, and so, being refreshed, he addressed himself to his journey, with his sword drawn in his hand, for he said, "I know not but some other enemy may be at hand." But he met with no other affront from Napoleon all the way through this valley. Now at the end of this valley was another, called the Valley of the Shadow of Death, and Christian must needs go through it, because the way to the celestial city lay through the midst of it. Now this valley is a very solitary place. The prophet Jeremiah thus describes it: a wilderness, a land of deserts and of pits, a land of drought and of the shadows of death, a land that no man passed through, and where no man dwelt. Now here Christian was worse put to it than his fight with Apollyon, as by the sequel you shall see. This book is continued at this point on the other side of this cassette.